We are starting week 3 of this Light in the Darkness series. It's talking about our mental health. Robbie did an amazing job the first couple of weeks talking about depression. And if you did not get a chance to hear it or watch the video, I would really encourage you to do that. It was excellent. This week and next week, David McCann and I are going to be talking about anxiety, and then I'm going to close off the series talking about addiction the week after that. So we're really excited, and I want to start off. Okay, going back and forth. This is a little bit of a different topic for me, a sermon. Normally, what I like to do is I like to be able to have what we're talking about couched in the Scripture. We're taking this and we're bouncing out of what the Scripture says. And this is a little bit different, where we're going to be talking about a lot of things, and we're not going to talk about the Scripture quite as much. And that is not because the Scripture has nothing to say about our anxiety. It's got a great deal to say. And that was the wrestling that I was doing. But the reality is, I think that there's a lot of information that can be very helpful to a lot of people that are struggling. And that if we can get this to you, then it can actually help smooth out your relationship with God as well. That's the hope. So I'm feeling anxious about the relative lack of Scripture in this, and so that's just a way of bringing in with everybody else. All right? But I do want to start with Galatians 5. And I want you to think about this as it relates to your just to the anxiety that you feel in your life. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. Against these there is no law. Those who belong to Christ Jesus have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. Okay, and I want you to think about that. I want you to think about how that lines up with how you experience, in particular, joy and peace when you're dealing with anxiety. And we'll just hold on to that, and we're going to swing back around today in just a couple minutes. When we're talking about anxiety, right? One of the things that's helpful to do when we start is to maybe clarify a couple terms, because there's certain we use different words to describe different things, and we use them in different ways, and that's fine. But it might be good to kind of clarify what it is that we're talking about. So let's look at a couple of these words. The first one is stress. All right? Stress is different from anxiety, but only kind of. How's that for the technical discussion? All right? It's kind of different, kind of not. It's the fear or tension that arises from a known source. You know you didn't prepare for the test, and you're coming up on it, and there's going to be a collision of realities that goes on right then. That can cause stress. Or if you've ever had, I'm sure none of you have, but I'm sure you know people that have been in situations where they have perhaps been speaking, perhaps broken a law, and you see a police car kind of swerve right in behind you. I've never experienced that. All right, so there's that. But so stress is that feeling that comes from, it's a known source. You get why you're stressed. There's something that is causing it. Okay, now anxiety is a little different. Anxiety is the fear or dread that may have a known cause or may not. It isn't that you just aren't prepared for the test, but that you will never do well on it. You see how anxiety starts to spread. It may start with something that is a particular moment, but then it starts to kind of spread out a little bit. All right? And then we have panic attacks, and a lot of people talk about these. And that's the fear or dread is so pronounced, there's no way you can even expect to take the test. It's where anxiety is kind of a slow build, and it'll build, and we'll talk about the different levels it can reach, and then a kind of a slow drop off. Panic attack is exactly the opposite. It just comes out of nowhere and spikes. And it just takes control of your body, and then it drops off. Okay? So let's kind of play around with these. And the reality is there's a lot of discussion about what causes this. The most recent research would say it has to do with your hippocampus and your amygdala. You guys are thinking, well, of course, it's probably my amygdala. Your amygdala is that almond side, they call it the lizard brain. You've ever heard that, right? It's the part of your brain that deals with running, fighting, freezing, something. How do you deal with danger? They call it lizard brain because for a lizard, that's really all their brain. That's what they got. That's it. We have that, and then we've added some other things on, which is super helpful for us, right? God was good. He gave us that. He's like, I'm going to give them more. So, but and so what scientists would say is the reason that you feel stressed, the reason that you have anxiety, is probably because your hippocampus deals with how you emotionally encode memories. Sorry for that. Again, probably heard that. But scientists would say the reason that we feel the stress and anxiety that we feel is because there's a certain connection that we make with a frightening or painful memory. And it happens so fast that we don't think, I'm not ready for this test. I'm probably not going to do well in any of them. And well, no, that's probably because in third grade, I didn't spend the time getting ready for the spelling test. And this week's made fun of me. That did happen. But, it's like, it's not that. It doesn't happen like that. It happens so quickly that we think test failed. And that's where the anxiety comes from. It's loaded in. So the question is, what does the gospel have for this? What does Jesus offer? I mean, maybe nothing, right? That's a possibility at least. If he doesn't, then all that we're doing as we read the scriptures and applying it to this is we're giving ourselves, it's like a helpful delusion. It's not really there. But if he does have something, he does have something that can help us. It'd be good to know too, right? It would be good. Now, as we're talking about levels of worry, and worry, we use worry to describe stress and anxiety. It's just all these words that just kind of all float around in there. There are different scales for helping us see what's normal. The goal of your life is not that you live a worry-free existence. That would be nice. That will not happen. Even the royal family, they're having some woes right now. They got some worry because what are we going to do with Meghan and was it Prince Henry? Is that right? Harry. Sorry. Henry is the son of the other brother, right? Yeah. That's probably the best response. Move on. Keep it going. All right. Anyway, it's the reality of having a worry-free life isn't a reality in this broken world that we have. It just isn't. So how we navigate it starts to matter quite a bit. So there's a couple of different ways we can look at worry. And so this is just one scale. It's certainly not comprehensive. It's not exhaustive. Those words mean the same thing. Don't need to say both of them. But it's like I want you to look at what normal worry is and then excessive worry, or GAD. That's generalized anxiety disorder. If you're diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, it's typically we start there. Now, Robbie mentioned the fact that 1 in 5 people deals with a mental illness right now. 1 in 5, that's 20%. And so if anxiety is something that you are experiencing, then they would probably start there. Now, please don't look at some of this and self-diagnose. Please, we know that if we do that, everybody winds up with chronic plague, right? I mean, that's just the way it always ends up working. But look at this and maybe start to try to gauge. Do some of these things describe some of what you're feeling? So normal worry is your worry doesn't get in the way of your normal life, your everyday life. You can control your worries. Your worries are few and about relevant things. I love this. Whilst they are disagreeable, they are not upsetting. The word whilst is a little bit upsetting. Your periods of worrying last only a short time. Right? So for the 80%, I know that the 1 in 5 are all kinds of mental issues, but if you aren't diagnosed with anxiety, you're probably going to land somewhere in there. If you have excessive worry, that you worry so much that it is constant or continual and it interferes with your everyday life. Your worries control you or are uncontrollable. You worry so much about many things and your worries escalate disproportionately and you feel stressed or ill. So they escalate disproportionately. It means that you are worrying at a level that the situation doesn't objectively warrant if there is a way to objectively get something like that. You have been worried or anxious every day for over 6 months. Now, the reason this is so important is because for the 4 out of 5 that don't struggle with things like this, when we are talking to someone, or we know someone, or we're friends with someone, or someone in our family is experiencing something on this other side, it's easy to assume that our experience is theirs. That's where the great and glowing words of just snap out of it come from. Don't worry. You might also run out, it'll be fine. What that other side shows, what this side shows, is that that's not what's going on. When someone is struggling with this, when their amygdala and their hippocampus really get going, it floods their system with cortisol, and I have it. Somebody knows it, just yell it out. Cortisol and norepinephrine. When someone is dealing with anxiety that's at a clinical level, it's like the switch that's designed to turn that on and shut it off gets stuck in the on. Their system is being flooded with signals that there is danger, that it's not going to work. And you telling them it's fine doesn't make it so. We need to be a little bit careful with that. Now, there are also scales for looking at how significant your anxiety is. Okay? This one, look at the faces. I know. Just in case you're wondering, I think it's, let's see, how do I do this thing? There it is. Oh my gosh. Right there. You want to be there. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. That seems like someone being haunted. So this is just one scale. This is anxiety level 0. This is how average people start their day. Everything's generally fine. Okay? Not great, not terrible, generally fine. 2, or you get to level 1, it's akin to misplacing your sunglasses with a remote. It's easily resolved. You get to 2, similar to misplacing your keys when you're running late for work. So now it's the difficulty, and there's a problem that is kind of colliding with the difficulty. You get to 3, imagine finding a scratch or small ding in your new car. Now 4, imagine being the cause of a scratch or small ding in your parents' new car. 5, imagine totaling your car, messing up your big presentation at work, or failing your final exam at school. 6, imagine losing your job, failing the big test, and totaling your car all in the same day. That's a bad day right there. 7, imagine all that happens, then coming home to discover your basement flooded and your family pet died. I know. 8, it's worse. Imagine adding to that, your identity was stolen, your bank account closed, and your spouse left taking the kids. I don't know, there's like a Freudian thing. Sometimes it's taking them, and sometimes I read it as leaving them. I don't know what's always down. You'll understand. And then 9, it's just you're just silently rocking back. All right, so, and the point of that is that there's, that one's kind of funny, but there's scales, there are ways of gauging the amount of stress, the amount of anxiety, and what it's focused on. Now, this one is a little bit more clinical. This is one that is used a lot of times from you're in 0 distress to unbearable distress. If you're the 4 out of the 5, the 80% that don't deal with things like this, then very likely you're going to stay most of your time in here. The more you get into higher levels of clinical, you're going to be staying up in here. And there are points where it gets to here. All right, that's kind of the technicals. But I want you to watch this and get a feel for how someone describes it.
Initially, I didn't know what to call it. But I remember when I first felt it, I hated the way it made me feel, but still I couldn't let people know that I held it. It weakened me, but I refused to let people see the weak in me. It felt like it was eating me from the inside out. And it made me want to tear the uneasiness from my insides out. My heart beats, suited for house music, along with my heart pace. Each thought race, no route to it. The nervousness, the worry, it sprouts too quick. The panic becomes organic. I guess I just gotta plow through it. So I do my best to remain calm as the butterflies in my stomach result in sweaty palms. Friends keep asking me why I'm so quiet. I tell them I'm just tired, that nothing's wrong while all alone. I just want to go home and be alone. Because large crowds make me feel small, and as though I'm in danger, and I desperately try to keep my eye on every single stranger. Meeting a bunch of new people brings so much pressure to my chest, and I don't talk a lot. I often watch and I let them do the rest. Sometimes I'm scared to succeed. I mean, what if I can't keep it up? Scared of how I'm perceived by the people who show me love. And when the news reports another senseless killing, I am soon engorged in an intense feeling. Thinking of the worst outcomes, I worry about my friends and family, constantly wondering if we'll all soon see a tragedy. I'm asking God to protect them and to look after me while I'm looking over my shoulder and around every corner to make sure no one is after me. And I know that's irrational, but sometimes I feel so nervous I don't even speak properly. I know what I want to say, but the message I try to convey comes out sloppy. See, it's the overthinking, the self-consciousness, the sleepless nights, the nauseousness, the feeling as though I can barely breathe. But I try not to be obvious. I feel terrified and paralyzed, and yet I force a smile through all of it. Self-diagnosis, I'm calling it. This is anxiety, and it resides in me so vibrantly, but I keep it inside of me, quietly, outwardly smiling, inward emotions collide so violently. And if I could be a person who struggles with a moderate level of anxiety, imagine those who deal with it severely, and how every day for them is a fight to breathe, a fight for peace, a fight to be okay.
I think things like that, and that he doesn't describe. He doesn't describe the way that everybody that feels anxiety, the way that they feel. That's not the point. The point is that as we're looking at the way that we pursue peace, we have to be able to appreciate in ourselves the challenge that that can create. Because otherwise, what we're constantly doing is judging ourselves and grading ourselves and turning it into, do I have enough faith? Does God love me enough? And as all of us are walking through, there's certain things that we can do that can help us with this. But for those of us that don't deal with it as significantly as others, then we're going to have to be able to step outside of our experience and acknowledge that people have an experience that's different from ours. Or we're going to become those friends that just say those things all the time. You don't work. We just push people away. You know, when you think about that scale, you remember the green to red scale that we looked at just a couple of minutes ago. If you could superimpose on that scale, green this side, red this side. If you could superimpose, imagine hurting your ankle. Okay? You're playing basketball, you're running, you're doing something, but you hurt your ankle. And there are certain things that you do when you hurt your ankle, and we all know it. There's certain initial steps that you take. You elevate it, you put ice on it, it might be the ice and heat, depending on your perspective on that combination there. Take some ibuprofen for the swelling. You stay off. Now that brings difficulty into your life to be able to do that, but depending on how, if you're towards the edge of the scale for your ankle being hurt, that usually will take care of it, right? But then if you wait a few days and the swelling doesn't go down, and the pain doesn't subside, if it doesn't get better, then you realize it may not be that. It may be something else. And so then you just take the next step and you go to a doctor. They might be able to feel around and see what's going on. It might be a more significant sprain. And so they give you a splint to wear. You have to stay off of it longer. It interferes with your life a little bit more, but then it'll get better. Or maybe they realize, no, you need to go for an x-ray because there might be a broken bone. Maybe after the x-ray they say you might need to get an MRI, there might be some tendon damage. Maybe after that you have to go see an orthopedist because it might involve surgery. And the surgery, then it might involve physical therapy afterwards. The point is, the farther you go down the line, the deeper the level of involvement you have to have in order to be able to be free from the pain that's in your ankle. And anxiety is the same. For so many of us, there are some initial steps that will really help. And it puts it away. But if it doesn't, that's not because your faith doesn't work. It's not because God doesn't care for you. It's not because you're doing something. You're just this deeply flawed person, any more than all of us are deeply flawed. It just means we need to take another step. And there are steps to take. There you can see a counselor, and they might be able to help you with some more developed patterns of thinking. And if that doesn't work, then seeing a clinical psychologist that would help to look to see what is causing deep in you this fear response. And if that doesn't work, then there are medications that can also be extremely helpful in this process. See, that the church and our culture has gotten it so wrong for so long. We don't know how to look at the two things together. Either our faith and we just pray it away and it'll go away if your faith is strong enough. Or it's science and we just apply that. No. What the scriptures are calling us to do is look to see what God has released us to and begin walking to that. And then as you encounter difficulty, then let's look at where we go. God has given us people in the church that can help us with things like that. And He's given us wisdom of the way that He created our bodies so that we can start to put some other pieces in place that are helpful. All of it should be on the table. None of it should be shamed. I want you to look at Galatians 5 again. Fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, forbearance, patience, kindness, goodness, man, when I get out of it. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against these there's a law. See, when he was writing to the church in Galatia, what he was trying to help them do is realize. Paul was writing to them to help them realize what this relationship with Jesus meant. What they had been freed from. And what they now had access to. But for them, just like us, that's really hard to do. You would think it's like we would just read it and we say, okay, now I have access to this, and then it just goes. But that's not how it works. So we have to do things a little differently. And I want to look particularly at the way that Paul starts this out. He says, the fruit of the Spirit. He uses fruit. He's speaking agriculturally. Now, I don't want to dive down too deep into this because we don't know exactly how deep he intended the metaphor to go. But there were certain things that they would understand that tend to be different from the way that we understand things. When they thought of fruit, they thought of the entire process. They were an agricultural economy. They would have thought about preparing the soil. They would have thought about cultivating the plant. They would have thought about keeping other things today. And then there would be a fruiting season where they would harvest. For us, when I think of fruit, I think, well, I wonder if Kroger has it. You know, it's not apple season, but you go, I don't think, right? I'm not very connected to the season. I don't believe so. Seems cold. But you can go. You can go to Kroger and buy apples. They might not be quite as big as they would normally be. They might be a little more expensive. You can buy star fruit at Kroger. I don't know where they grow star fruit. But you can grow it. You can grow it. You can grow it. You can buy it. See, when we think of fruit, we think of just kind of, it's our entire process is streamlined. And unless you grew up on a farm, that's probably roughly how you're going to think about it. He said there's a fruit of the Spirit that's in your life. There's something that as you cultivate it, it starts to grow. There was a particular grape that they were growing that was central to their economy. But it didn't grow very well in their climate. A lot of things didn't. This land, this promised land that God brought them, it actually was kind of hard to grow things, which required that they stay connected to God and stay focused on God through it, which I think was God's point. We think when He's bringing us to the promised land, it means our perpetual ease. So no, it's a land where you and I are perpetually connected and aware of each other. But this particular vine that they would grow, you would prepare the soil, which I don't know what you do except dig something in the soil, and then you would put down the seed, or you would bring in a small plant. I don't know. I really should have looked this up. I was dealing with other things, and then it begins to grow. Now, after a couple of years, it begins to show fruit. As soon as it would begin to show fruit, they would completely prune it back, prune everything. Take all of it off. The next year, they would prune it completely back. The third year, they would completely prune it back. And then the fourth year, they would start to harvest the fruit. The reason for that was because the plant was allowed to produce fruit, and all the energy in the plant would go to making grapes. Well, by cutting that off, they redirected the energy of the plant into the roots. You see, when they heard fruit, they thought all of this. See, there's some people in here that the reality of your life, whether because of a genetic marker in you, you have a greater likelihood that switch is going to get stuck in on. Maybe some of the experiences you've been through cause you to have greater levels of fear. Some of you, in order to walk in that peace and joy, the guy says, our fruits, you're going to have to cultivate the ground harder, and your harvest season is going to be shorter. That's something I so appreciated what Robbie said last week. He's like, he hasn't dealt with that season of clinical depression in a number of years, but that doesn't mean it's not going to come back. If it does, here's how he'll respond. He'll go back to cultivating. He'll go back to the goal is not just the cessation of the bad feeling. I understand that I'm someone that doesn't feel it like a lot of you in the room do. And that might feel kind of easy for me to say. I don't mean it like that. The goal of our life is not our emotional ease. The goal of our life is a life that is singularly devoted to God and following Him and trusting Him that either He will just remove something, which I think when we stand before Him, we'll be amazed at how much He's just removed. We can see He's removed this. Or that He will help us walk through it in a way that makes sense. Or if He doesn't, that He will be with us every single step as we're walking through. You may be someone that has to cultivate that ground so much longer than it seems like other people do. And it may feel like your harvest is just shorter. And I think for some of you people that is the case, you'll stand before God and He'll say, yes, you're right, it was. Well done. But you stayed at it. You stayed close. Or you tried to. See, if you're trying to get something to grow that isn't natural, everything around it, just before this in Galatians 5, Paul talks about the fruits of the flesh. Those are the things that naturally come, and he goes through what those are. If you buy a plot of land and you're going to try to grow something on it, then if you want to grow exactly what everybody else has naturally going, you don't have to do anything. If it's scrub brush that's around you and you want to, I would really like to grow some scrub brush, then you don't have to do very much work. If there's prairie grass all around you, I would love some prairie grass. You don't have to do any work. And Paul's saying that is the fruit of the flesh. You don't really have to work for that. That just finds us. It just balls up. Even after we have a relationship with Jesus, it just balls up. But if you want to cultivate the fruit of the Spirit, it's going to take time. Sometimes it's going to take time because God is trying to help us to work things out of our life that are causing stress. one of the toughest times I had was right when I became an elder. We sent a church plant team to Los Angeles, and the numbers of NLCF just fell through the floor. And it looked to everyone and to me like I was a big part of killing this thing. And I think that probably, if we would have, tested me, I probably would have hit the clinical diagnosis for anxiety at the time. And all I wanted was for God to turn things around in LCF. All I wanted was that. And all I wanted for him was just to take this kind of pressure off of me. That's all I wanted. And it took him time to walk me through a process of seeing that what I was doing is I was using LCF to prove my value to everybody. I was using what was going on here to prove how good I was. And the problem wasn't just the stress. The stress was pointing to something that was wrong in me. And the problem wasn't just getting more people here, because that would just strengthen the problem in me. And it wasn't all about me, but there was something that he was doing in me. And sometimes that's what he does. And then there are other times that you are feeling it because of things, nothing that you've done wrong, nothing that you've asked for. And in those moments too, he says, I will walk with you. And we will be able to see fruit. It may not be as much as other people show. I will not leave you. Just don't leave me. And we'll get through this. Now what David is going to do next week, he's going to talk about some ways that you can start to move through steps to healing. Right? I really do hope you come back. And there's on the bottom, you'll see right under the Galatians text, it says question. Text 540-200-8132. If you have a question about anything we've talked about so far in this series, anything, it could be depression, it could be this, it could be something that we haven't talked about. It might be that you didn't understand what we were saying, it was really confusing, you missed something, or you didn't cover something that matters to you. Write those questions down and text them to us. Put them on your card and send them in. Because we're going to do a podcast in a week or so where we'll cover those questions. And then we'll let you know where it is. As we're stepping into the rest of this week, I just want to read to you Psalm 42, 1 through 6. Just close your eyes and just receive this as an example of someone that has walked through what a lot of you maybe are walking through. As the deer pants for streams of water, so my soul pants for you, my God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. Where can I go and meet with God? My tears have been my food day and night, while people say to me all day long, where is your God? These things I remember as I pour out my soul. How I used to go to the house of God under the protection of the mighty with shouts of joy and praise among the festive throng. Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God. My soul is downcast within me. Pay attention to the fact that here, praising God did not change how their soul felt. This is not flinging verses at something like there's some sort of magic phrase. This is orienting your life in a way where gradually God can allow the things that are broken in us to fall back, where his life and his movement in us can surge forward. And we come to a season of fruit. My soul is downcast within me. Therefore I will remember you in the land of the Jordan, heights of Hermon, the mountains are. Let's pray. God, as we are trying to sort through our souls here, we're trying to sort through the things that make life easy and difficult and all of it. God, would you help us? God, I pray for people that have been blocked by anxiety. Maybe there was something that gives them hope. You would speak hope into their lives. Lord, I pray that if they have felt, gosh, if anyone in here has felt like the reason that they don't stop this anxiety is because you don't care about them enough. You don't love them enough. They have enough faith that they would put that away this morning and never pick it up again. They would see, God, that you are cultivating things in each of us. And as we are cultivating the ground, as we are moving towards the harvest, you're accomplishing things in our soul. It's not just getting to the goal. The entire path, you're doing things in us and building us and shaping us and strengthening